You cannot develop a game gradually going from one process to another. It's always a game of getting back and forth, having ups and downs, killing ideas and bringing them back to the table. This is Siclen Studio, my name is Dmitrii, and in today's video I will share my experience of reusing ideas of mechanics, gimmicks and art in our newest game called Siclen Valley. I will also share how I try to improve my ideas when using them again to avoid the same mistakes I initially made. But let's start with a better understanding of how ideas work. It feels like ideas are perceived as something very vague and barely controllable. But writing music since I was 12, fiction since 2018, and making games for the last 4 years, I have become assured that idea generation and its development are very technological processes where setting goals, structuring your thoughts, and staying cold-blooded are much more important than inspiration or anything else. Ideas are like clay, but when you can shape whatever you want, it might be difficult to control the result. So I always start by defining several focal points. For example, Siclen Valley is based on our sci-fi novel, and keeping the setting was a priority. Still, we knew we didn't want to create a narrative-based game and wanted to unfold the atmosphere of the world through the gameplay. That already looked like something. But this fundamental looked too sketchy, so we came up with the key principle of putting narrative and gameplay together, the flow of the game. In our world, the planet is literally choking because of flavum, a yellowish gas discovered in the Earth's atmosphere. Humanity is stuck at Siclen Valley, the station built by the biggest IT corporation called SAC. These days, it doesn't matter anymore, but former corporation's couriers have become sackers, the only people who own capsules, cargo ships suitable for round trips. So we already could expect the game could be divided into two modules: Earth surface exploration and fulfillment of the contract for the survivors at Siclen Valley. That was more than enough. Also at our studio we have a set of values. We had to follow them to save our voice and vision. It does not necessarily mean you have to have a developed system of values, it was just a big thing for us. So we never sacrifice quality, appeal to uniqueness rather than copying, and create multimedia projects that are more than just a game itself. What I'm trying to say is that there should be key principles the rest of the game will be built on top of. An important thing about it is that all these things should point at different aspects of what your game will be like. Something about the gameplay, theme, and you as an author. Without any priorities, you will be navigating in the dark. Sometimes nothing fresh comes to your mind. Then I use the technique I call scaling. I analyze the core concept from different viewpoints and on a different scale. For example, deck building is a great mechanism that I could use in my game. But for now, it's a wish, not an idea. What specific information could I add here? We can ask ourselves two sets of questions, global and personal. So, global questions: what makes deck building games work? How do they function? What variations exist? The idea of this mechanism is to scale your deck by filling it with carefully chosen cards and avoiding cards that might destroy the control of your hand. I'm not going to give more detailed information here. Deck building is an umbrella term, but you can watch this video. Also, you can read practically about all common mechanisms in this book. Next, what are the best references I can name? For Siclen Valley, that definitely would be Dominion, Moonrakers. What's most fun about them? The sense of progression, getting and losing control over your hand and your opponents, the exact process of getting cards, and performing their actions as combos or as a stack. And finally, are deck building games sold well in 2024? After all, probably it's important for the game to sell well. And yes, they are. There are at least 10 games with this mechanism in the top 100 of BGG. The genre has its icons and the competition is high, but is it good for me? That leads us to personal questions. So, why do I want to use deck building? There are hundreds of mechanisms. Why deck building? Well, it's an effective and well-tested mechanism. It's known to many gamers, so by using it, you can relatively easily form expectations from the gameplay, especially when we already have so much going on in the game and it is set in a regional universe, so probably we want to attract players' attention to that. What new can I add to this genre or this mechanism? At this point, deck building has been used in so many games that adding something really unique would be a real challenge. On the contrary, we're adding it to the game to create a sense of awareness. Still, we are mixing several mechanics in a new way: deck building, tile placement, contracts. Also, the way cards are used in the game for area movement, resource crafting, and contract bidding looks cohesive and hopefully immersive. And can this mechanism be used well together with my idea? Yes, it can. Deck building is a very flexible mechanism and it fits perfectly the theme of dangerous trips to the planet, where collecting resources depends on how skillful you are. In other words, how well you can control your hand. So, answering these questions can help you generate and deepen your ideas. With this project, I was not smart enough to answer these questions in advance. Now, that would be the first thing I would do. By the way, now I'm working on a video where I will tell about all 4 years of development of Siclen Valley. Anyways, let's finally get to reusing ideas. Once you settle on a vector and develop several very raw prototypes, the whole process gets even more complicated. Not only do you have to plan the following development carefully, but you should also be ready for big changes, as sometimes development takes unpredictable courses. For example, components can be redesigned because of cost reductions or changes in material. Ideally, all sizes and materials should be known before getting to designs, but practice shows that it rarely happens. So precisely described technical requirements can be handy here. But since I have already mentioned data analysis, I don't want to dive deeper into it in this video. I'd better give an example of our design pipeline. First, I create a design document that gives a designer and a lead illustrator a better understanding of an overall idea. I describe the lore and the mechanics, but most importantly, I create mood boards where I share my own vision of how the game will look like. Mood boards consist of references that do not necessarily represent the exact same style that we will go with, but rather show the overall aesthetics, the feeling of the game. Of course, the more specifically we will describe each reference, the easier the work will be for the whole team. For example, this is not a really good mood board. It's too abstract and lacks any argumentation. This one is much better. After some time, when more work is done, we create a brand book. We consider each game a tiny brand, and each brand has to be consistent. Without a solid cohesion, the fictional worlds would not look convincing. In addition, if we need to change something later, we will already have a set of rules that barely ever changes, regardless of the product in the setting. And that's great, because art is expensive, but once you have a brand book, you can easily reuse illustrations, paying more attention to their key limitations like aspect ratio. I'm sharing it all with you because we have over 10 completed iterations of Siclen Valley. Make sure you don't make our mistakes and put enough effort into the pre-production phase. That will allow you to reuse your ideas effectively. There have been 10 completed iterations. We need only one, since we are releasing the only game for now. But what if we need to return to earlier versions? Don't kill what's already been done, on the contrary, systemize it and keep it close. Some of these ideas can be used again or transformed later. If you don't have anything to get back to, you will have to design the same stuff again and again, and you know it takes time. For example, here I have several decks of cards. None of them made it to the current build, but actually some of the cards did. We settled on this variant, which is not even the last one. Switching the pages, I can follow all the edits. Or I can make copies of the file. Or serve the edits if it makes more sense to you. The main thing is that I can avoid making the same mistakes again and seeing that, yes, we have already tried it, and for some reason it didn't work. It would be awesome to give a reasoning for each change, and sometimes we add them, but we cannot afford doing it each time. Would be too many commentaries. Sometimes you need to take a break and collect more knowledge in totally different spheres. The ideas might come to you at any moment, and other works of art can even remind you about some of the former ones you had and totally forgot about. Solutions can come and go, but the more you push yourself, the less obvious such solutions might be. Which is bad, since a good solution is usually a clear one. Like here, we wanted to add the upgrade system from the very first iteration, but I was pushing the idea of creating totally different characters. We created different abilities for each character, spent several weeks doing that and playtesting them. And it was awful. We got back to the idea of the tableau with different paths for the upgrades and designed it in like 1 day. Maybe all I initially needed was some fresh air. And this is it for today. Hope you liked this video. If you did, please consider sharing it with your friends and subscribe to this channel. By the way, what's the craziest idea you've ever come up with and get back to from time to time? For me, that would be starting a board game publisher. Share in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.